House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
You're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. This has been a busy couple of weeks in the gambling industry. First, one of the largest gaming conferences in the world, the American Gaming Association's The Global Gaming Expo, or G2E, just wrapped up. And this is the first time since the pandemic hit that this amazing conference was held live. And a bunch of new states are jumping into the sports betting market. We're going to hear all about these important news stories from our favorite returning guests from Better Collective and USBets.com, Adam Small. So stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Psst. Yeah, you. Come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use the offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Is your bathroom looking old and worn out? Want to update it, but you don't know where to start? Then let BCI Bath & Shower show you how to turn that old bath into an aisle of beauty and functionality. Our residential bathroom solutions provide the best value on the market, and our customer service is second to none. Our cost-effective BCI Bath & Shower family of products has what you need.
Remodeling our bathroom was a big decision for us.
They didn't make a mess out of our house at all. And at the end of the day, we had a beautiful new bathroom. And it was a great experience the whole way through.
We have the best monthly payment programs in the industry, with payments as low as $68 per month or no interest, no payments for 18 months. For a limited time, be one of the first 100 callers who schedule a free in-home consultation and receive $500 off. Call 1-800-594-9530. 1-800-594-9530. Factory-trained and certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. BCI Bath and Shower, the leader in affordable bathroom products.
You're listening to House of Cards.
I'm talking sick piles of money. I'm talking lay on your bed in your Vegas room, throw the money in the air, and dance as it showers down on you money. I'm talking frosted glass limo money. I'm talking big cowboy hat, silver turquoise buckle money. I'm talking gambling.
I am in love with you.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. This has been one of the busiest times in the gambling world with big news happening every week. One of the largest gaming conferences in the world, known as G2E, has just taken place after a year's hiatus, and new states are jumping into the sports betting market. And as always, when we want to get the latest from the gambling world, we talk to our favorite returning guest from Better Collective and USBets.com. Adam Small is on the line. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Dave. Great to be the favorite.
Oh, no, absolutely. Hey, I think you are the most common guest that we have, the most returning guest. So we should give you a trophy or something. And
I would like that, and I always like coming on.
We always love having you, and especially now you just returned from Vegas and from G2E. And before we get into the big topics of G2E, I want to ask you what it was like again to attend a live gaming conference. I have yet to go back, but my first one's going to be next week when I go to East Coast Gaming in Atlantic City. And I was just wondering how you felt getting back and seeing the familiar faces and interacting in person with everyone there.
Well, it was awesome. I almost never have described a conference as awesome before because usually it's just very routine, right? Like, we go to 5 or 6 of them a year at least, and it's a lot of the same people every time, and it's always nice to see them, but it's also usually very normal to see them, and the conferences are a bit of a grind. You got to do the travel and the hotels, and just everything is a little bit trickier when you're traveling, and this one was just great. I mean, I think just being away from the scene for a couple of years, just really 2 years since my last conference, and not seeing a lot of people, but also just not being in that kind of environment. And it's so exciting to get out there, and so much has obviously changed in the industry in the last 2 years. And so being around everything and seeing what's going on, I will say G2E was a lot smaller than it normally is, at probably maximum half the size of a normal year, but I think it was even smaller than that. And the conference hall was quite a bit smaller, and there were a lot fewer people there, and particularly the European contingents were mostly not on site. But despite all that, it was just a great time and a very productive time as well.
What was the general feeling of everyone there at the conference? Was this kind of a feeling like what the hell did we just go through, or was there this excitement to be back and dealing with normal issues again in the gambling world?
You know, I feel like I had a blur of meetings over a few days, a lot of them. And it's not like we didn't talk about COVID and the pandemic at all, but it just felt mostly like the meetings were kind of normal. Like we just got together with people and sat down and talked through whatever's been going on, and talked about what's going on in our lives and, caught up and stuff like that. But it really, I think it was kind of remarkable in its normalness. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously to everyone listening, but there was a mask mandate at the conference as well as a vaccination requirement. So there were, restrictions that made the conference different than it would be in a normal year. And so, we get in meetings and there was a little bit of awkwardness around, well, now that we're sitting down having a meeting, can we take off the masks or whatever? And it's kind of hard to have a conversation in depth with the masks on to begin. So for the most parts, we'd be trying to get off into a room more private or whatever. We actually had a suite rented at the Venetian for this where we could lay back a little bit more and, have a beer, water or coffee or whatever and take off the mask and have like a normal conversation. Because it is strange walking around an expo all day, like trying to have conversations with people with masks on. But other than that, I mean, it kind of actually just made me appreciate the fact that there are like thousands or millions of people around the country and world that have jobs that require them to do that every day, all day long. Working in public places or restaurants or whatever. And I'm always just sitting in my office by myself doing whatever I want. So it really made me appreciate what it must be like for all these other people that have to deal with that every day.
Now, I just want to set the stage. I've been referring to it as G2E, but its full title is the Global Gaming Expo. For people out there who aren't familiar with the conference, what is it and why is it so important for this industry?
Well, it's the biggest gambling conference in the U.S. every year. Maybe the biggest in the world. I don't know. I've been to ICE London a bunch of times, and they're similar in hugeness. And G2E is getting bigger, with the U.S. becoming a bigger focal point for a lot of the international companies that do gaming, particularly online gaming. And so G2E has just been getting bigger and bigger. I definitely think it is the most important event of the year, almost unquestioned most important event of the year for anyone who is doing business with a primary focus on the United States. And so it was a real blow to the industry that it didn't happen last year. It also wasn't surprising by, the summer or whatever, when it was clear that the pandemic wasn't going to be a quick thing that was over and no one was worrying about anymore. It became very clear that there weren't going to be large scale business events at all in 2020, really. Yeah. And so we knew it was going to happen. But yeah, I mean, you've got to have events like this because there's got to be something every year where basically everyone is going to be. Yeah. And this is that event. Whereas you're talking about going to the East Coast Gaming Congress in New Jersey, which is a really good event. It's been going on for a long time, but it's very much a regional event. Yeah. It's focused on the New Jersey area. I've been once, actually, I believe the time we met in person was there. Sure. And I'm actually going in December to an event at the Meadowlands. So
yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there. So
you'll be there as well. Great. Well, I hope to see you. That's a good one as well. But very much just focused on sports betting. And so the difference with G2E is that it's focused not just on sports betting or on a region, but really just everything in gambling, really worldwide, and especially in the U.S.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards.
Attention seniors with Medicare. This is an important announcement. Did you know you may qualify for a monthly Social Security rebate? Did you know you may qualify for a $0 monthly premium? That's right. You may qualify to get $135 added back to your Social Security check each month. Just call the Medicare benefits line to get your options. It's a free call. You may also qualify for $0 premiums, dental coverage, vision coverage, hearing coverage, and prescription drug coverage. With this type of plan, you don't need Medicare supplement insurance. Call now because you deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits, including a rebate to your Social Security check each month. Agents are standing by with free information regarding Medicare benefits. It's a free call with no obligation, but it could mean big savings for you. Call the Medicare benefits line now to see if you're eligible for a Social Security rebate.
Call 800-574-6770. 800-574-6770.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Your Majesty, the royal wrestlers await.
I'll bet on the little guy. How much? 3,000 guineas, 2 geese, and a duck. That's a foul bet.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Adam Small from USBets.com and Better Collective. So what were some of the big issues that were discussed at this year's G2E?
Well, I didn't spend a lot of time in panels, but I can tell you, I mean, just what I found in conversations out there was that there was a lot of talk about what the industry was going to look like as the pandemic actually wound down. And I think it opens eyes about kind of the bubble we're living in the U.S. in a lot of ways where, vaccination rates are pretty high and restrictions are fairly low in most of the country at this time. You can pretty much do most of the stuff that you did before the pandemic, at least to an extent. But in a lot of the world, that's not the case yet still. And they're still figuring out what it's going to be like with the brick and mortar casino experiences, and also just looking at how the rise in online gaming has happened, at the same time that people have not been able to go to brick and mortar as much, and what that means for the long-term trajectory of the industry. Like, is this a permanent shift or a temporary one? And what are the issues that we're going to have to reconcile relating to this? A big one that certainly comes up a lot in my circles is responsible gambling, and how people being home all the time and having less to do, and probably also being quite a bit more stressed out or having other mental health issues related to the pandemic may have likely led to a rise in problem gambling, and what the industry's responsibilities are there to mitigate that kind of thing. There have been some high-profile issues with this, particularly overseas, but not only overseas. There was an event recently in New Jersey, actually, pretty near where you are, where a guy jumped out of a building, a poker player, and I don't want to say he was necessarily a problem gambler, but he was in gambling among other issues in his life, and I think the industry has to have its eyes wide open about how these things are going to become more prevalent as more and more people are gambling and have more access in different ways to gambling, and needs to be focused on mitigation.
Well, the great thing that about G2E is the American Gaming Association is very much involved with that. They have this great program for responsible gambling, and I'm sure it was brought up by Bill Miller, who was speaking there, correct?
Yeah, I understand it was. I didn't catch that speech, but I did meet up with a young lady named Brianne Dowra, who was working for the AGA, I believe, for a while in the responsible gambling kind of segment of what they do. And she's now with a group called Epic Risk Management that's based out of the UK, but she's in DC, and talked to her quite a bit about this and came to understand some of the efforts they're making to educate policymakers and also stakeholders here in the U.S. And what I really like about her approach, and I think the AGA and plenty of others that care passionately about this issue, is I think that there's kind of like this idea in a lot of people's heads that people who care about problem gambling or are, activists or advocates around that issue are anti-gambling, and thereby are kind of like our adversaries to people who are, making money in this industry. And I think that's very much not the case these days. I think we are all on the same team of understanding that gambling is a thing that's going to be there, and trying to do it in ways that don't cause harm to people. And that's tricky because the industry is, by its nature, something that is financially dangerous to a lot of people. And we've got to work together and communicate well with each other, and coordinate on ideas and plans that we actually execute to mitigate this harm. Because what you never want to have happen, what nobody, whether they're a CEO of, a major gambling firm or an activist or just a person who reads about it in the news. You don't want to hear about someone losing their family or their life over gambling debts or gambling losses. And we all want to do everything we can to prevent that kind of thing from happening.
One of the other hot topics in the gambling industry that I've run across in my other life as a gaming attorney is cashless gaming on the floors. And I'm wondering if you heard a lot about that at G2E. I mean, recently I talked with the president of Resorts World Las Vegas, Scott Sabella, and that was a source of pride for him that, my gaming floor is cash-free and cashless. It's the wave of the future. Did you get the sense from G2E that this was the wave of the future and that's where the casino industry is headed?
Absolutely. I don't know a ton about it, but I definitely believe firmly that it's the way of the future. And I think it's always like, there's some kind of basic questions you can ask about a situation like that should lead to the answers there. Like, would it be better and easier for people if they didn't have to carry cash in casinos? I think the answer is an obvious yes, right? And would the customers prefer to not have to carry cash? I think the answer is an obvious yes. Like, do we like having our wallets full of bills when we're in there, or have to carry around a money clip, or risk getting robbed somewhere when we're walking around, or going through the airport and having to explain why you have a bundle of cash in your pocket, or whatever it is? Nobody wants to be dealing with all this stuff, and so it's clearly a customer preferred experience to not have to carry cash. I think the casinos also will find that they prefer this over time, and I think that's where we're all headed. I did get over to Resorts World, which is a great property, by the way. I did not gamble there, so I didn't get to experience how the casino works. I went out to dinner with some people, but I think they're ahead of the game, and I think it's a smart thing that differentiates the experience there from other properties right now, and I think it's going to be really good for them, for their business.
The greatest thing about cashless gaming is the fact that in my basement, I have a bunch of these plastic coin buckets from these old Atlantic City casinos that I got them for free, and I was about ready to throw them out a couple years ago, but then someone said, you can get $50 a piece from them because, you have they don't have those anymore. You just don't have the plastic coin buckets anymore. But I'm very curious, more and more as the months go on here, I'm also hearing about cryptocurrency. Are you hearing any about that in G2E? Because more and more as the months go on, I'm not sure if state legislatures are ready to jump into that field, but I've heard from a lot of casinos that they're looking at it very closely. Have you heard anything like that from G2E?
Well, crypto definitely came up a lot while I was out there, but more just because I think the people that I know and people in this industry in general are probably more likely to be invested in it or involved in it somehow than probably quote unquote normal people out there in the world. But I myself, full disclosure, I'm interested in crypto as well and invested in some coins and things like that. But I think that actually having it in a regulated gambling environment is tricky. I'm not sure if there are any around the world that accept it as payment yet. I know that there are some offshore gambling sites, like in poker sites, that do accept it as payment. But as far as actual regulated sites, I can see what the issue would be. That there's a lot of concerns about things like money laundering in relation to online gambling. Some of it, sometimes I tend to think, is more based on just like kind of buzzwordy things that politicians are worried about or using as talking points. But I also think there are some legitimate concerns there, particularly with something like online poker, where you could theoretically lose money to someone else as a means of paying them for something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that there's still a lot of concerns around using crypto in regulated gambling and how that would be dealt with from like a financial regulatory standpoint. So I'm not really expecting it all that soon. But that said, everything in crypto is moving at the speed of light right now. And it might just be that the solutions get found pretty quickly, that there's some sort of way to create like an intermediary solution where the crypto converts into some kind of casino currency or something like that, and that's more kind of monitorable or whatever. I'm just not sure, but as of now, I think we're still a little bit away.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Hey, this is Dave Weishadow from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of October 25th, 2021. According to the American Gaming Association, August was the sixth consecutive month with more than $4 billion of revenue for the commercial gambling industry. This made March through August the gaming industry's sixth highest grossing gaming months ever. Through the month of August, commercial gaming generated $34.15 billion in revenue in 2021, surpassing the $29.98 billion revenue figure from this time last year. New Jersey gaming regulators approved the sale of half of the Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City to the Ilitch organization. According to the reports, Ilitch acquired half of the property for $175 million and will share in operational decisions of the resort with the current owners, Luxor Capital Group. Ilitch owns the Detroit Red Wings hockey team, the Detroit Tigers, Detroit's Motor City Casino Hotel, and Little Caesars pizza chain. And finally, there are a few casinos that have announced that they are changing their names. First, the Meadows Casino in Pennsylvania will now be called Hollywood Casino at the Meadows. The San Manuel Casino in California has rebranded as Yamava Resort and Casino at San Manuel. And in Indiana, the Tropicana Evansville officially became Bally's Evansville Casino. So go sign up for those new Player Club cards. Have any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation? Send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on Twitter at HOC Radio.
You're listening to House of Cards.
You are more in need of a night in Atlantic City than any man I've ever met. I'd say sit down at a table, go for dinner, see a show, take a walk on the boardwalk and smell the salt air. But if you're anything like me, nothing after sit down at a table is going to happen.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishadow with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Adam Small from USBets.com and Better Collective. Now, certainly one of the biggest stories in the gambling industry is the growth of sports betting, and a lot has occurred between the last two live G2Es, especially with regard to deals being made in the sports betting industry. Between the last two G2Es, not only have professional sports teams made deals with sportsbook operators, but college teams have made deals with sportsbook operators. And I know the Arizona Cardinals owner Michael Bidwill spoke at the conference. When it comes to professional leagues and collegiate leagues, did you get a sense of what we can expect from the future with regard to sports betting when it becomes when leagues become more involved like they have been?
Yeah, I think the way it is right now, we're already kind of starting to see a little bit of the blowback on just how freely everyone has kind of taken the industry's money over the last couple of years. And just backtracking a little bit on what you were saying, since it's been 2 years since the last conference, just remarkable to me is that when I was there in October 2019, I think Pennsylvania had just launched online sports betting on a couple of sites. And that was the first major market that had opened outside of New Jersey. I think there might have been like a little bit of something in West Virginia at the time, and obviously Delaware, but it was really the first market of any consequence that had launched outside of New Jersey. And talk about how a year is a lifetime in this industry. Between then and this G2E, I think like 20 states or so have launched online gaming of some sort. I mean, states all over the country. We're talking, Wyoming and Virginia and Michigan and Indiana and Colorado and Tennessee and New Hampshire and Oregon. And the list just goes on, and that doesn't even include the states that have added retail sports betting and things like that. So it is pretty remarkable how much happened in a 2-year period, and I think it's worth reflecting on just how much has changed in this industry.
Well, speaking of sports betting, we have a bunch of new states jumping into the sports betting market, and one of the biggest stories in the sports betting industry for the last couple of months is Arizona, and they just completed their first full month of sports betting. And as far as the markets go, how did they do, and were the numbers what everyone expected they would be?
It looks like a great market so far. I mean, it's only a limited number of operators so far. There's only 6 or 7 in there, I think, maybe a little bit more than that. Most of the bigs are already in there. The BetMGM, DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, the guys that are usually out there spending the most money, and a couple others are in there as well. And I think it's going to be a very good market. I think I looked it up. I wasn't sure quite how big Arizona was population-wise when that bill had passed there, but I think it's the 14th most populous state, or right around that, which makes it certainly a major enough market to matter in this space. It's not altogether different from like a Virginia or North Carolina or even Michigan. They're all kind of in that same range. And the way it's played out so far, it seems very smooth, very solid. The growth is good. From our business perspective, it's been a really, really good market so far. So we're impressed with what we've seen there. It's definitely on par with kind of what we were seeing early on in Tennessee or Virginia when those states launched, where, things went pretty smoothly and the growth was pretty quick, and the states seemed to be cooperating with the industry's desire to grow, and I think it's going to be a really good market.
A couple of months ago, I spoke with the head of gaming from the PGA Tour and NASCAR, and they were both thrilled about Arizona. They thought that was going to be huge for their industry. Do you think Arizona can be a top 10 market in the U.S.?
I think it is already. Long term, in terms of just, it's already top 10 in terms of its importance in the U.S. Of course, when California and Texas happen, and they will happen someday, it might be 10 years from now, but when those states happen, they're going to kind of trump everything else by a lot. New York is already poised to become by far the most important sports betting market in the U.S. as soon as online happens there, which is going to be relatively soon. Those big states really have the potential to dwarf everything else. And Florida's this whole other matter that, because they're going to have a single operator monopoly, sort of, depending on how everything plays out in the courts, with Hard Rock really leading the charge there, it's going to be a bit different. But coming back to Arizona, I think that you can look at them as kind of a third tier market, but understanding that the first tier is really 3 or 4 states, and the second tier is another 5 or 6 states, and they're probably right below that. So maybe right around 10th or just below at the end of the day, and probably going to hold on to that importance, considering how many really important pro sports teams and college sports and major sporting events are out there. That's where the I think college football national championship many years is in Arizona. It just seems like the Phoenix area in general is always becoming more important in sports. It's always moving towards being a bigger metro with a lot of focus on it from a national sports perspective, and so I expect Arizona to be a big player for a long time.
Now, I live in New Jersey, and I also have an office in Massachusetts. And recently I was driving through Hartford, Connecticut, and I saw a billboard that I never thought I'd see, and that was from the Sugar House Sportsbook in Connecticut. Right now, Connecticut has retail sportsbooks in two of the casinos, Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods, and now Connecticut went live with Sugar House, FanDuel, and DraftKings online sportsbooks. What can we expect from sports betting in Connecticut?
Yeah, actually, the day we're recording here, which is Tuesday, October 19th, is the full launch day for sports betting in Connecticut. So we're really talking right as it's going live. There's only going to be a handful of operators because they had a limited license and kind of tribal situation there that the compromise that was made was that there could only be a certain number of operators, and it looks like all we're going to have is FanDuel, DraftKings, and Sugar House, which is contracted with the lottery. And so there are also going to be, I guess, a couple of operators associated with the tribal casinos. I believe Foxwoods is going online as well. Yep. But I think that what we're looking at is a fairly small but very well off state. So probably, customers are going to be pretty high value from the operator perspective in general. Just a handful of operators, and they're going to have a full suite of options. They're going to have online casino, online sports betting, presumably poker at some point. We'll see. It's I think it's going to be a pretty decent state, just given, granted that it's not a very big state. But I think as I always look at the rankings of states by population and by per capita income, and I'm pretty sure Connecticut is number one in per capita income. Yeah. So it should be pretty relevant overall because it does have enough people to, just in those, I guess, mostly New York suburbs to be relevant.
Well, you mentioned New York. Do you think Connecticut getting mobile sports betting and sports betting will motivate New York to move quicker with their online sports betting? I mean, for years, I've been constantly hearing about people from New York City going over to Jersey, and New York is losing money because of it. Now there's Connecticut, where New Yorkers can go just as easily as New Jersey. Could this make New York move a little faster in their implementation of online sports betting?
I don't know. I think it is very much a true statement. I think it's well known that New Jersey has been taking a lot of money out of New York with this industry for years, and I think it's fair to say that Connecticut will also be taking some money out of New York. I mean, all you really have to do is just look at all the people that spend time in both states regularly, right? Like, how many people live in Connecticut but work in New York, and same with living in New Jersey but working in New York. And maybe you would be placing those sports bets on your phone while you're in the city during the day, but instead you have to wait till you're at home in New Jersey in the evening because that's the only option. And same with Connecticut. So kind of like logistical things, they're losing money that way, but I'm sure there are also the people that are more into betting that actually go across the state border just to do betting. I know that that's a thing that happens sometimes. So I think it is something that should motivate New York. That being said, the thing about New York is it's just such a big state with such a huge budget, and this is still just like a pretty small thing in the scheme of things for them. So I don't like to overestimate our own importance to a state like New York. Yep. I think it's coming pretty soon. I think that everything going on in New York's been really interesting. Seeing the list of bids that came in for sports betting groups, and just so that your audience understands, there's a pretty complicated set of rules around who can operate sports betting in New York, and they have kind of these two distinct classes. They have what's called a platform provider and then a gaming operator, like a gaming brand. And if you're a platform provider, you're providing like the software and the data and all this stuff. And then you can have multiple brands that are kind of like skins that, operate on top of that platform. And so you have these bids coming in from like multiple companies together. Like, for example, there was a bid with FanDuel as the operator, but then FanDuel, DraftKings, and BetMGM all being brands that would operate on that platform. So you might have a situation where BetMGM and DraftKings are operating on FanDuel's platform in New York, which is really strange. But 6 of these bids came in, and a couple of them were just for single companies, and other ones were for platforms where several brands would be on top of them. There were at least 2 of these really kind of quote unquote super bids where a whole bunch of well-known brands were all on the same bid. So we know there are going to be at least 2 licensed, but there could be more than that. There's no maximum. So things could really shake out in a number of different ways in New York. And when it does, there's going to be at least a few pretty big and well-known and reputable sports betting brands there, and it's going to really shake things up for sure for both Connecticut and New Jersey as that need to cross the border goes away finally entirely from New York City. I mean, I guess Pennsylvania closed off a while ago, and New Jersey, the people going across from Pennsylvania to New Jersey closed off a while ago, and then New York to New Jersey is going to close off, and New York to Connecticut is going to be a short-lived thing, and really, I mean, it's going to end up with most of New England having legal, regulated options for sports betting really soon.
Another state that started retail sports betting was Louisiana, and as we're talking right now, there's only one place to place a bet in Louisiana, and that is the Native American Paragon Casino and Hotel. I mean, commercial properties are still waiting for their rules and regulations to be handed down so they can start their sports betting activities. What can we expect from Louisiana, and is mobile sports betting in their future?
Yeah, it's in their very near future, and I think by the time this airs, the situation might have even changed there, because I got notice that at least one major company is going to be soft launching before the end of this week.
It was Caesars, right? Caesars?
Caesars, yeah. It came out and said that they're going to launch. They're going to do a soft launch by the weekend, most likely. So it's definitely a situation that's in flux. We don't know entirely who all the brands are going to be there, and who's getting what positioning, and so on and so forth. But I would say it's a very fast-moving situation, and probably by sometime in November, there should be multiple brands operating online statewide sports betting in Louisiana, or at least mostly statewide. I can never quite remember how it all shook out there, but for a while there was a regulation in place that certain parishes might have it and certain ones would not. And parishes, for those who don't know, in Louisiana are basically Louisiana's version of counties, because Louisiana is a little bit different in pretty much every way than the rest of the country. And so in certain parishes, they would be opting out of sports betting. So it creates an entire new sort of geo-compliance need in that state that we haven't had in other states, but probably one that companies in the industry are now up to the task of handling. And so we'll see how that all shakes out. But for the most part, around the state of Louisiana, people should have access to a number of brands really soon.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards.
Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
You're listening to House of Cards. Check out our website at houseofcardsradio.com.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Adam Small from USBets.com and Better Collective. And one last state I want to ask you about, and you mentioned before, was Florida. Hopefully they're all done with all their lawsuits right now with regard to sports betting. What will we expect from sports betting in Florida in the near future? I mean, are we looking at something very quick, and are we looking at something online as well?
I think it's a mess, and I think there will be more lawsuits, and who knows how long this is going to be stuck in court. But I did see that news that a couple of the lawsuits got thrown out earlier this week, and it's really interesting. I mean, there are clearly a number of parties that legitimately and honestly believe that they're right and have very different opinions than each other about what can be done here. And so it's highly consequential. It's a state with, 20 million people, maybe more than that at this point. I believe it's the third biggest, even more populous than New York now. And also, of course, there's a ton of tourism to Florida all the time. So a lot of opportunities to have customers generating a lot of revenue in that state. And I think that it's very much up in the air what's going to happen there. But as of now, the way it looks is that Hard Rock is going to have basically a monopoly over everything with sports betting in Florida. And how they use that, I guess, remains to be seen. I will say that to date, Hard Rock has not had a lot of success in New Jersey, where they're operating now. They're definitely basically an also-ran, probably not even making enough money to really even be taking their business all that seriously up there. But in Florida, if they own the entire market, it's going to be a different matter.
Yeah.
And I know that they brought in a number of really talented people, a lot of them formerly of the Stars Group, who came over as the management team either earlier this year or last year. I think it was earlier this year, and have really reshaped their entire operation. And it just remains to be seen. Are they going to be able to turn it around in a way that just running their own stuff in the state is going to be the best option, or would they rather be forcing other people to pay some huge fees to them to operate in the state under their monopoly? So I think they have some options, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But the first step is definitely just the courts and all the tribal stuff and figuring out if they're even going to be allowed to operate.
We don't have a lot of time left, but I got to ask you, I mean, here in New Jersey, we have all these sports books, but they also have online casinos attached to them. Do you think we're going to see more and more of that in other states? I mean, it seems like states want to allow sports betting. However, they really don't want online casinos in their state. Do you think we're going to see more and more online casinos moving forward?
In a word, yes, but I'm not sure quite how soon. I see varying opinions around the industry. Some people think it's going to pick up really quickly. Others are very much not so sure. It has been very clear that politically it's a challenge to get online casino legislation passed in a way that it's not as much of a challenge to get sports betting passed. They're both a challenge, without a doubt. But sports betting, as the leagues have kind of changed their stance on all this, and the sports teams and leagues and, powerful associated interests in major sports and media and stuff like that have gotten behind all this, it's been a lot easier to kind of grease the wheels politically to get this stuff done. With online casino, some of those same elements are there. Certainly the same companies often benefit from it, but there's just not as much popular interest and political interest in going that route. And what I think is going to happen is, in certain states, we're going to get to a point where, sports betting revenue is not growing as much as it was anymore, and it's still growing rapidly, even in New Jersey, where you just had the first month ever with $1 billion in handle reported in September. So we're definitely not anywhere near done growing, but if we get in a situation in a state like Virginia, or certainly a state like Illinois really comes to mind quickly to me, where it seems like revenue is plateauing a bit on sports betting, and they realize there are still all these budgetary holes to fill, because there always are, then they won't be able to legalize sports betting this time, because they already did, and it's already legal, and it's already part of what they're factoring in. So online casino could be the next thing to happen to kind of help them get more revenue to pay for all the stuff they're always doing. And so I do think it will grow. I think states like Illinois and Indiana will, eventually start more seriously considering it. And some of these other states have just legalized sports betting as a standalone product. But I don't think we're ever going to reach a time where it's just like part of a standard suite of things that that gets offered in every state. I think it'll be always something that is less widely available than online sports betting.
Adam, we're running out of time, but can you give out your websites where we can keep up with all the gambling and sports betting news that seems to be breaking every day?
Of course, yeah. If you're in New Jersey, check out njonlinegambling.com. We cover the New Jersey market really in depth. And just around the country, usbets.com and sportshandle.com, we are covering basically every facet of the sports betting and casino industry here in the U.S. If you're interested in seeing how this industry is growing and changing from a business perspective, as well as from just an interested follower perspective, those sites are really great. And I appreciate you listening and following.
Adam Small from usbets.com and Better Collective, as always, thank you for coming on and giving us your insight into the biggest gambling stories out there. Always great to have you on, so please come back soon.
Yep, thank you.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards.
Across the desert plain, you build a house of cards around a lover's heart. Wild country